Welcome to Shoot the Hostage. I am Dan.
And I'm Sarah, and we're a movie show that covers 8 films each season, tied together by a central theme. This season, the theme is folklore.
We cover everything from explosive action to spine-tingling horror and everything in between. And as a heads up, we don't hold back on coarse language or specific plot details, so listener discretion is advised.
This podcast is brought to you by our amazing patrons, without whom the show would not be possible. If you'd like to help out and access all of our bonus content, including new reviews and wrap shows, all the relevant links will be in the show notes.
And if you're not a Patreon person, but you would still like to help out, you could rate and review us on your podcast player of choice. Tell a friend and get them to rate and review us as well. Or come follow us and interact with us on social media, mostly Instagram, X, Threads, TikTok, all at sch_pod. Without further delay, here's this week's episode. We hope you enjoy it and stick around. The penultimate episode in our season, in this latest season of folklore movies, and we're continuing the folklore theme, conveniently, with The Green Knight.
Yes.
Which came out in 2021, our second 2021 movie on the bounce.
Yeah, unintentional.
Completely unintentional. We never think about these things, it just kind of works out that way.
Don't make it sound like we underthink things. We go to great pains to figure out the lineup.
We do we do go to great pains, you're right. And some would say we might overthink it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean...
We have to stop ourselves. So
that's our MO, overthinking things.
Yeah.
I included this to effectively throw you a bone.
Okay. In what respect?
In the respect that I knew you weren't super psyched to cover folklore as a theme. It was very much my brainchild to do that this season. And I put the list together and I don't know, I wasn't confident that you would like very many of the films on the list. There were a couple that I knew you liked, but I wanted to put something in that was definitely more of a Dan flavour than Sarah, shall we say.
More flavour Dan. Okay, I like it and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's funny because I have enjoyed most of the movies thus far.
I'm surprised.
And obviously we only got one more to talk about after this one in this season.
Mm.
But yeah, I've actually enjoyed most of them, but we'll probably talk about that sort of thing in a wrap show.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, based on 14th century poem story?
Question mark?
Yeah.
I believe it's a poem. Have you read the poem?
No, I have not read the poem.
Are you going to read the poem?
I'm not going to read a poem.
Okay.
I don't think anyone wants to hear me read a poem. I'm not doing it. If I turned on a movie podcast and they're reading a poem, it's going off.
Okay.
Not for me. Thank you.
No poetry then.
No. But I don't know much about Arthurian myth outside of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So that is my strongest reference point for this kind of thing.
Which, as we know, was 100% historically accurate. In every regard.
Yes, it is, including Life of Brian. That's 100% historically accurate also,
yep.
I believe. And I haven't watched that movie in a long time, so if there's anything inappropriate in there, I'm sure that's not historically accurate. Just got to cover yourself, haven't you? Can't say anything these days.
Careful.
Yeah, so as I said, the most I know about Arthurian lore, myth, is from Monty Python and Holy Grail. I haven't looked up the poem. I know nothing about it. What else was it? Excalibur, maybe. I saw that when I was a kid.
Okay.
Was that the one with the sword in the rock?
Well, didn't Disney do The Sword in the Stone?
Oh, right. Okay. Was it a fox, though?
No, you're thinking of The Fox and the Hound.
Okay. I've got those things confused.
I'm pretty confident isn't folklore.
It might be.
Maybe.
You don't know that.
I don't know that. I can't say that with any conviction, no.
All I can think now is a way to crowbar in your mother was a hamster and your father smelled of elderberries.
Well, you did it.
I couldn't think of a way, so I thought I would just announce it that I'm going to crowbar it in.
Okay.
The Green Knight, it was made for a budget of $15 million.
Which is low, I would say. Well, to be honest, I'm shocked they got a budget at all because I can't imagine how the pitch meeting went for this. I think it would have been a very hard sell. So I think it's almost a small miracle that this film got made at all, let alone David Lowery being given $15 million to do so.
Yeah, that's fair. I would counter that by saying it's a 24, and they do put out some unusual. We're kind of getting used to it a bit more now.
Well, yeah, but I think I think what we need to remember is that A24, while they are a production house, they're still, to the best of my knowledge, predominantly a distributor.
Right.
So I don't know who put up the money for this. I'm not sure it was them.
Well, they would have, I'm assuming as a distributor, you would need to put up some percentage of the money.
Okay.
I don't know for sure, but I would assume so. There'd be a multitude of people that are putting money into the pot for it.
You have a lot more insider knowledge of film financing than I do, so I'll trust you on that.
Yeah, and I've got slightly more than a hamster. Just call back to that hamster I spoke about earlier.
God.
I haven't dealt with a lot of film finance stuff, actually, in terms of how the money trickles down from the top. I've just kind of dealt with paying the vendors and stuff like that, but I would love to get into that sort of thing as well. I think the budget is very low considering how good looking this movie is.
Very much so.
It must have been quite a hard sell because I feel like a lot of what this movie about, and we'll get into it, is kind of in the fabric of it.
Yeah, and a lot of it's kind of up for interpretation, and it diverges a bit from the poem towards the end of the film, like the third act. But I can't imagine pitching a film that's based on a 14th century Arthurian poem. I mean, if you ask any sort of English literature, what's the word? I was going to say major, but we don't have that in the UK, do we? Scholar. Let's say scholar.
Let's say
there
scholar.
We go.
We'll cut out the rest of it. So you sound like, you sound like a scholar.
Cool. But it's largely considered to be one of the most important literary works kind of ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's been picked apart to absolute death. But I think it's really interesting the direction that David Lowery went in.
Agreed. I think it was a really smartly made movie. And it's one of those that I've seen it a few times now, and it kind of, it's like peeling away an onion. There's more and more to think about, I feel like.
Like a headache-inducing amount, though. I've only seen it twice now. And I'll be honest, up front, I chose this because I know you enjoy it. We watched it for the first time together, I think in 2021.
2021, on a projector.
On the projector, yeah. And I know you were quite enamoured with it on first viewing. I definitely wasn't. There was a lot about it that I did like, but overall it kind of left me cold. And much like you've said in the past, kind of when you're forced to dig into films for the purposes of a podcast, it sort of sheds a bit of new light on them. So I still don't love it.
Okay.
But I've come to appreciate it way more than I did on first viewing.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll have a good old chinwag about that in a bit. I really enjoyed it the first time I watched it, but I was very surprised by what it was because I feel like I don't remember actually watching the trailers, but I remember my feeling of it is that this is going to be a horror movie.
Well, that was exactly what I expected. I remember the first posters that dropped and I was super hyped because it sounded like it would be right up my street. Yep. But that's when it's funny that we both had that assumption. There must have been something about the marketing that made us both think that.
Yeah, I think so. The name A24 comes with a certain amount of expectation, I would say, as well. And I know they're not all horror, but a lot of them are horror adjacent.
Yeah.
And I would say this is horror adjacent.
In many ways, yeah.
In terms of theme. But yeah, I definitely felt the marketing led us to believe a certain thing that it wasn't. It was unexpected. The movie was unexpected. But I wasn't upset by that initially. I was a bit jarred by it. But
I was upset by it.
I gather. And I understand because I know how much you love horror. And I feel like this could have been also a really good horror movie if they'd have changed a few things.
If they'd have changed the soundtrack.
I thought the soundtrack was very horrifying-inducing, if that's a term that I care to coin right now on this podcast.
You heard it here first and you'll never hear it again.
I don't think I could repeat
No, exactly. Unrepeatable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. While we were watching it, obviously we kind of teased this show when we covered The Witch because there are quite a few through lines in terms of cast, look and feel of the movie, the fact that they're both A24. But also, I hadn't really paid much attention to the fact that the soundtracks have a lot in common.
Yeah.
But parts of them anyway.
Yes. I was listening to the Mark Corvin score of The Witch today.
And
oh no, I said The Witch. The VVitch, I beg your pardon. And also I've been listening to obviously the Green Knight score a little bit as well recently.
It's been very dramatic in the house today.
Yeah, it has. But I love both of those scores. They're really, I find them very, just, they conjure up such an atmosphere. And
I was about to say super atmospheric.
Yeah. And they're very similar.
Yeah,
Mark
in so many ways.
Mark Corvin did the score for The Witch, and Daniel Hart, I believe, did the score for The Green Knight.
Okay.
But I don't know if you've heard anything about the instrument that was used on The Green Knight.
I don't know a thing.
I'll burn through this because I'm sure it's been talked about ad nauseum, but ad nauseum?
Ad nauseum.
Ad nauseum. But there's this instrument called an apprehension engine, which is the most bizarre sounding name for an instrument.
That sounds like a code name I would give to my crippling anxiety. Not an instrument.
Yeah, it's not very catchy though, is it?
No.
You've got to address it constantly.
It's a bit of a mouthful.
It is a bit of a mouthful. But what's interesting about the apprehension engine is that it was commissioned by a guy who I mentioned earlier, called Mark Corvin.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked someone to build it for him, a guitar maker called Tony Duggan Smith. And that was actually for the score of The Witch.
Oh, nice work, Tone.
Yeah. So they invented an instrument, and I've looked at this thing on YouTube, and it's the strangest machine that you can, like, there's a crank, like a crank wheel thing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And like a whirry, you move this bit of metal, and then you remember when you used to do woodwork at school, and you've got the metal rulers.
Vaguely. It's been a while.
And then you point them off the edge, and you do a little boing.
Yeah.
You can put a little rubber on it or something.
Yes.
Put a little rubber across the classroom. They've got metal rulers on this desk, basically. And it's this weird thing, but it was, created for The Witch, and Daniel Hart used that instrument also for this movie. And last I heard, there's about 12 of them now. So I'm gathering that.
12 of the instruments that have been made?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It blows my mind that in 2015 or 16, I've read. When did The Witch come out? 2015?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so it must have been about 2015 then. It blows my mind that you can invent an instrument in 2015. And not only that, then it becomes very quickly used by multiple people. And also Mark Corvin's actually gone on tour with it. But I think it's great. I think it's a wonderful instrument, and the noises that it creates are really, like, as we said earlier, atmospheric, and just creates like
it's just really eerie.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense now that you've pointed out that it was created so recently and used in both films. It's a very distinct sort of, I don't even know. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's so unique.
It's unique. It's like a thick fog of grim fog.
A grim fog of noise.
A grim fog of noise, yeah, that's it. We've nailed that.
but also kind of, because it's not something we'd ever really heard before, quite uncanny.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting.
Distinct, yeah. So writer, director, editor, producer.
I know. A man of many hats.
Many hats.
Yeah.
I was going to do Lizard.
Let's leave that in season 1 where it belongs.
Yeah. Okay. David Lowery.
Yes. Have you seen any of his other films?
I haven't, no. Yeah. Oh, no, I have seen The Old Man and Gun. I tell a lie.
Have you?
I have, yes.
Because I've seen Ain't Them Bodies Saints. I didn't watch A Ghost Story. I don't know why, because it kind of seems like it would be up my street. Maybe it was Casey Affleck, Ick.
Yes. Have you seen Pete's Dragon?
Have I seen Pete's Dragon? I must have done back in the day, yeah.
Right. I haven't seen it, but I gather it's about a dragon.
Wait, are we talking about the animated one? Or was there... Wait, I'm so confused. Is there a live action remake?
Hang on.
If there's a live action remake, I haven't seen that one.
Letterbox.
Quickly, give us the information.
Letterbox. Fill some air. Pete's Dragon looks like a live... who's that? That's Bryce Dallas Howard. So
then no.
It's a picture of her face, so I assume it's a live action one in 2016.
Is she the dragon?
That
would be terrible casting.
Grace.
I have no idea. No, I must have seen the cartoon. Why is this relevant, by the way?
Because David Lowery directed it.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's unusual for him. It seems to sort of stick out a bit in amongst the rest of his movies.
Yeah, I listened to him on the Roger Deakins podcast earlier on this afternoon, and he was talking about kind of his career. He didn't talk an awful lot about The Green Knight, which is disappointing.
Okay.
But I kind of enjoy that also. He just sort of went through his career, and he spoke about, what was that film you mentioned earlier that you've seen?
Ain't Them Bodies Saints.
Ain't Them Bodies Saints, yeah. He'd made that, and Disney approached him to write Pete's Dragon.
Right.
Later on down the line, they said, would you like to direct it? And he said, you know what, I've put so much of myself into this script that, yeah, actually I would. So it wasn't kind of on his radar, but he kind of was presented to him, and he went with it, and I imagine he he needed to get paid as well.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, long-time collaborators. He works with DOP Andrew Droz Palermo, scored Daniel Hart, who also worked on Ghost Story, Old Man and Gun, Pete's Dragon. All those guys have worked together. Oh, going back to the DOP, actually, he also did Your Next, which is notable because obviously that's a really, really great film that you love.
Yeah.
You've showed me since we've known each other.
Did we watch that the first time we actually met?
Possibly.
I feel like we double billed Your Next and Cheap Thrills.
Yeah, that does sound about right. I do write down everything that I watch, so there's quite an easy way to check that.
It's probably not interesting to anyone but us, so let's move on.
Probably not.
So before we get too stuck in, do you have a synopsis?
Yeah, I do. On Letterboxd, the tagline is when Honor was everything. I'm going to stick with that.
When Honor was everything.
Yep. An epic fantasy adventure based on the timeless Arthurian legend, the Green Knight tells the story of Sir Gawain, King Arthur's reckless and headstrong nephew, who embarks on a daring quest to confront the eponymous Green Knight, a gigantic emerald-skinned stranger and tester of men.
He's not emerald-skinned.
He's
brown.
The Green Knight?
He looks like a tree.
The Green Knight is green.
He's not green.
He's green.
In the poem, he was described as a man with green skin.
Right.
But in the film, they chose to go with a more abstract representation, I guess.
Yeah.
But he's definitely more brown than green.
Is he?
Yeah.
I'm remembering it differently.
Okay.
I remember him very clearly.
You're picturing Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk.
I'm picturing the Jolly Green Giant. Was he green? The sweet corn guy? You don't see him anymore, do you?
No, you don't.
Whatever happened to the Jolly Green Giant, eh?
If there was ever a food that didn't need a mascot, it's tinned sweet corn.
Corn. Yeah. How do you market corn? I know, we'll get a giant, we'll paint him green.
This'll appeal to children, surely.
I love giants. Said
no marketing team ever.
Yeah. There were giants in this movie. I'd use the giants in this movie to market corn.
Would you?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I don't think that would be very successful either.
What product would you use them to market? Models of tiny giants.
Yes.
So, cast. I'm just going to skip through the cast. We touched on the Witch connections earlier because obviously we've got Kate Dickie and Ralph Ineson in this, who were in our first episode of Folklore season, The Witch. Also, Dev Patel, Alicia Vikander, Sean Harris,
Joel Edgerton,
Sarita Chowdhury, Barry Keoghan.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting Barry Keoghan's in it.
Weird dude. Yep. Banshees of Inisherin, Kill 'Em the Sacred Deer, Saltburn, Eternals.
He's having a bit of a moment lately.
Yep, he's everywhere. But you can see why. He's fucking great. I thought Dev Patel was really good in this.
I mean, he's got a pretty good reputation these days, hasn't he? I was never really a fan of Skins, but am I right in thinking that's where he got his start?
I think so.
And then was he in Slumdog Millionaire?
Slumdog Millionaire.
Right.
Yeah.
And then was that the project that sort of initiated his Hollywood career then?
I would probably say so.
Because it was super high profile, wasn't it? So
yeah, it was everywhere when that movie came out, I remember. But he also was in Lion, which was very good, and he was excellent in that. Chappie, which comes up.
Oh yeah.
Every now and again.
I wish it wouldn't.
Yeah, I know. I understand your problem with that film. I think it's all right, but yeah. There are reasons to not watch it, let's say. The Personal History of David Copperfield, which I've still not seen.
I haven't seen that either.
No. The Man Who Knew Infinity, which I haven't seen that either, and A Wedding Guest, which was all right. He was pretty good in that.
So it turns out I've seen very little of his work.
Yeah, that's fair.
Based on that list, anyway.
Would you watch more based on his performance in this movie?
Absolutely, yeah. He's kind of... It's weird because he's not a very likable character.
In this?
In this.
In what way?
In the way that he's kind of wasting his life. He's kind of a philanderer. The first time we see him, he wakes up in a brothel. He just seems really feckless and uninterested in sort of settling down and, I don't know, getting more out of life.
Yeah.
Obviously, he has big ambitions for heroism and he wants to become a legend, but it's not for the right reasons.
No. And he doesn't want to necessarily do the things that he needs to do to reach the kind of notoriety that he desires.
Yeah, he's not interested in honour or virtue. He's quite selfless and short-sighted. But I think that's completely intentional, right? Because the whole film is his journey, both literal and proverbial.
Yeah.
So he kind of needs to start as a bit of a dickhead.
Yeah.
for us to warm to him. But I also think it's really difficult to create a character that is so unlikable and have you invested in their journey.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a stroke of genius casting him, because there is something really magnetic about him, even though he's not a very nice person.
Yeah.
He is a kind of a bit of a toe rag. I don't know. I was interested from minute one.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with everything that you've just said. Funnily enough, David Lowery cast him because you need to be kind of on board with this character, even though his actions maybe you might sour on him a little bit. Like he wakes up, as you said, in the brothel, and I believe his first words are "I'm not ready," which is so indicative
Are they his first words?
I'm remembering it as his first words.
I definitely made a note of that, because maybe they are his first words then, or first notable dialogue, because I definitely jotted that down in my notes. I wasn't paying too close attention the first time I watched it, so this time I was determined, and I was like, that seems like it's going to be relevant. And I was correct. So yeah, like you say though, I'm not, what does he say? I'm not ready.
I'm not ready. And he keeps getting asked, what are you going to do? And he says, I've got time. I'm not ready. I've got time. Let's, kick this can down the road. Yeah, I want to be great, but, fuck it, I've got ages.
I just want to fuck around for the meantime.
Yeah. And I kind of find that quite relatable as a character. I think that feels quite real and quite contemporary.
Okay.
In that, whatever you decide to do in life, whether it's whether you've got certain ambitions and goals on a career, or if you want to have a family, whatever it is that you want to do, that is your journey, that's your quest. But you've got to know what it is that you want in order to do that. And I think the criticism on his character is not sort of knowing. It's divided into 9 chapters, and the first chapter is the Christmas game.
Okay. Did you make a note of what the chapters were called?
I did not. I went onto Google and copy-pasted from Google.
Right.
The Christmas game was the first one, and that's when Gawain, I'm going to say Gawain because that's how we say it in modern.
Well, yeah, apparently it's kind of Gawain now, but back then it would have been pronounced Gawain.
Yeah.
Strange.
But yeah, so Christmas game, Gawain goes into the food hall, the celebration chamber.
Celebration chamber. I think it's King Arthur's court.
Yeah, and while Gawain's character is in there, King and Queen kind of question him a bit. What are you doing with your life? More pressure.
Pull your fucking bootstraps up.
Yeah, tell me a story so I may know thee. And he goes, I ain't got shit to tell you.
Yeah.
I ain't done nothing. All I've been doing is playing GTA.
I'm watching Love Island.
Yeah. It's been wasting my life. See, very contemporary.
Yeah, absolutely.
And while this scene's going on, it's cut between scenes of Gawain's mother, Sarita Chowdhury's character.
Yes, who is King Arthur's sister.
Yeah.
Now this is sort of where it diverges a bit from the poem, because apparently I read somewhere that she's supposed to be kind of representative of Morgan Le Fay.
Yeah.
And I can't she wasn't King Arthur's sister, I don't believe.
Right.
But yeah, she's his mother isn't named, is she?
I think most of the characters don't have names. In fact, I think the only ones that do are Gawain and Essel.
Okay, interesting.
Because everyone else, the other Alicia Vikander character was Lady.
Lord and Lady, yeah.
Lord and Lady. And she was also a giant.
Was she?
Yeah, I heard that she got, I don't know if she was credited, but she was one of the giants also.
Oh, I hope she got paid 3 times.
So do I. How many times did David Lowery get paid based on that? On that basis, he was also a voice of the Fox. Did you know?
I didn't know that.
Another job.
I love the Fox. We'll get to the Fox.
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
He's my favourite.
It's quite an important character.
Well, yeah, I want to hear more about that then, because I'm still a bit on the fence about his role.
The Foxes?
Yeah, not David Lowery.
Okay.
I know, I've got that down at this point.
Yeah, he had too many roles, if anything.
Yeah.
But everybody's got kind of job names.
Right,
Is that what you call it? What's a job name?
Descriptors rather than names, yeah.
Lord, Mother, Scavenger.
Right.
Which character was Scavenger, do you think?
Kyogen.
Yeah, of course.
Weird little dude.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced he was acting in this.
Nah, I don't
just
think
just
so
show
either.
up and be yourself.
Yeah. Where was it shot, this movie? Ireland?
I believe most, if not all of it, was in Ireland, yeah.
I believe that someone found Barry Keoghan walking around in a field and they just took the entire crew there to Ireland.
Quick, Baz is here.
Yeah.
Get set up, everyone. Yeah, so it's fair to say that his mother could represent Morgan Le Fay then.
Yeah.
Who was known for sort of having studied the dark arts under Merlin.
Merlin was also a character in this, right? He was the tattoo face guy, I believe. We're supposed to think that because he looked like he was doing a bit of magic, right?
He looked like he walked off the set of Vikings.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could buy that.
The black magic stuff, Sarita Chowdhury's character is casting a spell or doing a magic. She's doing a big magic.
Well, yeah, whatever she does kind of summons the Green Knight.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of still unsure about the purpose of that. Does she have some sort of power of foresight and she did that to sort of set him on a firm path? Because obviously it doesn't really end well for him. Spoiler alert.
Well, I don't know. Does it?
No.
I don't think so either. But I've heard differing opinions.
Okay,
because you
interesting.
don't actually see what happens. But we'll get to that anyway. But yeah, so you touched on there about what her motive was, right? Why
Yeah.
she summoned the Green Knight,
I'm intrigued.
and I think that's where it starts to go down the road of interpretation.
Okay.
And I think because I think what you just described, can she kind of see what's happening? Yeah, maybe, and she's given him this opportunity. She doesn't know what he's going to do with that opportunity.
So it's just kind of a Hail Mary on her part to get him off his arse.
Yeah, come on, mate. You want to be famous or a knight honor. You want all of that, but you don't want to do anything about it. Well, here's your chance. If you want the easy road, I'm giving you the easy road.
Yeah.
So he's presented with a choice when old mate arrives, who she summoned, Green Knight, which is Ralph Ineson, Finchy. And he turns up and he says,
let's play a game.
Let's play a game.
If that's their idea of a game, fucking hell. Did nobody have Mousetrap?
Yeah, Mousetrap would have been
Crash Bandicoot,
safer.
Maybe?
Yeah. When they said about the game, I was expecting Billy the Puppet to wheel in.
That would have been a crossover and a half.
Yes. A Saw Green Knight franchise. No, don't fucking sully the Green Knight with the stench of Saw. No, thank you. Yeah, he turns up and says,
do you want to play a game?
Would you like to play a game? And Dev Patel says, is it Connect 4? And the Green Knight says, no. No, he says, let's exchange blows. And then I'm thinking of something completely different. I'm thinking, what is this movie going to be now? Would have watched that movie too, to be fair.
I would out of curiosity.
Yeah.
So he says, let's exchange blows.
Yeah, and they do. And the Green Knight, he puts his head down and then Gawain whips his head off.
Yeah.
Didn't have to do that.
Do you know what I would have done?
Not whipped his head off?
I would have given him a lovely hug.
Would you?
Yeah, because he was told the rules of the game prior. He was like, whatever you do to me in exactly a year's time, I will do to you.
Yep.
So just give him a lovely hug. And then in a year's time, you've got a lovely hug to look forward to. What's the problem?
Yeah.
Movie over.
Yeah.
Everyone hugs. Brilliant.
Agreed. But that's kind of a little bit of like, you reap what you sow. He's given him the chance to do whatever he could have just given him a nice little peck on the cheek and said, let's be mates.
He did sort of like, it was a bit fucking leading. Cause,
it was bait. He baited him to do it. Yeah.
Like you said, he sort of leant down, offered his neck. Like in a room full of knights, most of them would have gone for that.
Yeah.
Presumably.
I gather, and the kind of role models that he's had, you'd expect that would be the thing that he wants to do. The Green Knight obviously knows that. It's that temptation of, what path am I going to go down?
But I think, I don't know if I agree with that fully. I think it's sort of more in keeping with how short-sighted he is. He's not thinking about the exchange of blows a year from now. He's thinking about what's going to make me look big and hard in front of all these fucking legends.
Yeah, and also he doesn't really know if it's even true.
Yeah.
If Groot had turned up on a horse, I'd been like, oh shit, man, there's something going on here. This is not right. I'm not going to fuck with this magic. So yeah, I wouldn't have done what he did on that basis. But to be fair, he doesn't know that he's going to whip his head off and then he's going to pick his head up and then ride off like Sleepy Hollow or something. I think he's quite surprised at that point. He's like, oh shit, man, like I might actually have to do something in a year. So he's not entirely certain that there's going to be any repercussions for his actions.
In the moment.
Right. And I guess that is kind of interesting in and of itself as well, because I suppose just like any actions you do take can have repercussions way down the line that you can't possibly foresee.
Yeah.
And I think from that Christmas game part of the film, that's where it starts to get into the area of whatever you think is what it is. And I like that Lowry has not necessarily spoken a great deal about it.
Okay.
Because you can kind of chop it up to your own.
Yeah.
You can relate to it with your own experiences or have your own view on it. I think maybe he has done a director's commentary, so I imagine there's quite a lot of information on that, which I would really love to get my hands on.
Do you not own this?
No.
That shocks me.
I've seen it 4 times now, and I'm desperate to own it. I've looked at some Blu-rays. There's a really nice collector's edition as well, which
that will definitely be turning up in the post in the next week.
Maybe
then.
It's like 50 quid though. I don't know if I'm going to spend that much money.
But so this is at the point at which it kind of becomes a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
When he just
after the year is up.
Yeah, we get a bit of the intermediate year, where we see kind of the beginnings of the legend taking roots, no pun intended. And like the kids watching the Punch and Judy show, the puppet show.
Yeah.
And it's already kind of telling of, Gawain's greatness. He chopped the head off this tree man.
Yeah. And now he must go on his quest after the wheel of time has turned, and he will now get his head lopped off.
Yeah.
As well. What a legend. Brilliant bloke.
Ledge.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's during that sequence is called A Too Quick Year, which is a very short piece of the movie, but it's him showing Gawain just drinking that year away.
He's not changed one bit. He's not preparing in any way, shape or form. He's been
dining out on A Tale of Christmas Day for 364 days.
Yeah.
And after that, the end of that year, the king's like, what are you going to do, man? Like, your year's up. You've got to go on this quest. And Gawain's like, you what?
Shit.
Sorry? What? Oh, I actually have to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, bud, you do.
And his mum's like, here's this green thingy. It'll protect you.
Yeah, the bandana. Belt?
It's not a bandana.
It's not a robe, is it?
It's not a robe.
It's a robe. A belt.
It's kind of a belt. I can't remember the word. Yeah, so he leaves with this quote unquote protection. And I love the fact that it's at this point, like obviously throughout the film, we refer to Tree Man as the Green Knight, but the title kind of has a dual meaning, especially given the sheer amount of colour theory in this movie, because Gawain is also the Green Knight in terms of what green means. Like if you're a bit green around the gills, then you're inexperienced.
Okay.
So he's also a Green Knight.
I never thought about that. Yeah, he's a bit green, isn't he, that boy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Definitely works. I just saw it as the Green Knight kind of represents nature, and it's just that cycle of life.
Well, that's okay. So that's tied into my overarching theory of the entire film. So we'll get to that later.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah, that was my only reading on the green thing.
I think everything fucking means something in this movie.
Yeah,
everything.
I definitely agree with that.
So he leaves on his quest. His journey looks so fucking boring. What do people do without headphones?
Yeah, no podcasts.
Nothing, man.
No podcasts to listen to. Can't even listen to Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson. What are you going to do, man?
I don't know. Talk to your horse? It's not going to talk back.
Yeah. People formed out like strong bonds with horses back then.
I don't want to hear about that.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
I've seen something to do with that in a museum in Amsterdam, and I never get to see it again.
Oh, God, the less said about that, the better, I think. Yeah, that chapter's called the Journey Out, I believe. There's a really nice long sequence where he's on a horse and kind of the kids are, which you mentioned earlier, they chase him for a bit, and then these sheeps walk across the road, and there's the man with the stick, like
sheeps,
and pointing at the sheeps. And he's kind of on his quest to find the Green Chapel, the Green Knight. A week before Christmas Day, he's got.
Yeah, I think in the poem it was New Year's Eve.
Was it?
Yeah,
okay.
But they changed it to Christmas for the film.
So yeah, he's on his quest, and he stumbles upon Barry Keoghan, who this is where
is fucking manic, chaotic, and weird.
Yes, this is where he's introducing the testing side of things,
which I definitely did not get. Like, I'll be honest. I didn't
get this on first viewing. No, not at all.
I think one thing that I really hate about movies like this, or just movies in general, I have a strong dislike for movies that make me feel stupid. And I think that really informed my first viewing of it, because by the end I was just like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
I have no clue.
Yeah.
And I was a bit angry at the movie because it made me feel dumb. And so doing a bit more digging, maybe that's why I've started to warm to it.
That's fair. I mean, I feel dumb with most movies. I feel dumb watching Power Rangers, the movie.
You're not dumb. Although plural of sheep is sheep.
Okay, noted. When Gawain meets Scavenger Barry Keoghan's character, it's on a battlefield where they talk of
Yeah.
a battle that had happened where Arthur had killed 9,000 people or something.
Something,
So-
yeah. Doesn't he say that he had brothers or sisters or brothers who
something.
died on the battlefield or something?
He's in a field where there's loads of corpses, and
Mhm.
it's very interesting. Kyogen's character says the earth will take care of these. They'll get sucked into the earth and just become kind of part of nature, part of the cycle of life. And that's I think that's when I started thinking about the nature side of things, as well. Obviously, the Green Knight is, we spoke about earlier, being representation of nature itself.
Oh, my whole theory about this film is that the whole thing is just an environmental parable.
Yeah, I've got that as a note as well.
Oh, good for you.
Global warming.
Well, you've got several theories there. Cool. Can't wait to hear them.
Well, since you mentioned that then, so what gave you the thought of it, the global warming thing?
So, I mean, in terms of climate change, that the whole movie keeps battering us over the head with the notion that humans are infallible. We're very susceptible to minor ailments and we don't necessarily survive very long, or we're not very durable. We're fragile creatures overall. But the Earth, no matter what we do to it, no matter how much we seek to destroy, whether intentionally or accidentally, given enough time, it will always be okay.
Yeah.
It's far more resilient than we are, and we need to stop fucking mistreating it effectively and taking it for granted.
Yeah, for our own benefit.
Yeah.
And I think
just that ties into basically everything. Every single scene you can tie back to that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think King Arthur's what's it called? Camelot? Is it Camelot?
Yeah.
The gaff where he lives. That seems like a society kind of.
Sorry, I'm still stuck on Arthur's gaff.
That seems to be a society on decline. It seems like it's had its heyday. It seems like
well, it's very grey and drab, and they've robbed the natural world of all its resources in that particular area.
Yeah, they've plundered the forest and there's nothing left. What's left now is scraps, and you've got characters like the scavenger who's picking up the pieces.
And as that character says, we all go back to the Earth. The Earth will, in some regard, consume us. We'll be fine.
Yeah, that's just going to repair itself, just carry on.
Eventually.
And also, I kind of felt that, linking back to that theory about the giants, because I would say that the thing in this movie that I had the most problem with connecting was the giants.
The giants, yeah. I'm still not 100% on that.
So I've got a theory. Firstly, he's off his tits on mushrooms. So there is that.
Okay.
It might not be real. I mean, there is a question mark over what's real and what's not real in this film, if any of it.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that any of it's literal.
But also on this, my latest view, and I've been thinking about it, and I thought it was kind of like the giants, kind of like modern corporations, the giants of industry. They come in, because they were leaving. They were going the same direction as Gawain, which I assume is the opposite direction to which he came. So my interpretation is they were leaving that area after it's been plundered, and I'm thinking a bit like a big corporation, the giants of industry. They come in, they plunder an area, and then they fuck off and leave it.
Maybe.
Barren, desolate.
I don't know if I agree with that, mostly because the giants seemed really benevolent, whereas corporations, as we know, are largely self-serving and evil, whether they start that way or not.
I think the people within them can be self-serving and evil, but the corporation itself is nothing.
I guess so.
It's an idea. It's an idea that people hide behind to justify their own behaviours. That's my take on it.
To some degree, yeah, but humans kind of imbue it with a sense of what they want to get out of things.
Yeah.
But either way, I don't know. I don't necessarily get that vibe from this bit, because the giants just sort of seem like they're peacefully passing through. It doesn't seem like they're the ones who caused the destruction.
No, I'm not saying that they've necessarily caused all the destruction, but maybe have benefited and exploited it in some way. Listen, it's a very short scene, and I'm really clutching at straws. I
do have an alternate theory on that, based on the phrase "riding on the shoulders of giants," because he does kind of go, "Oi, mate, can I have a lift?"
Yeah,
kind of like, I'm going in that direction. Can I hop on or whatever? And the fox kind of hisses the giant away.
Yeah,
which we'll get to the fox again in a minute. I want to hear more on that. But I think they were just there to sort of highlight kind of what he's been doing his whole life, which is kind of riding on the shoulders of giants. He's been seeking glory, like other people's glory, without actually doing any of the fucking work himself.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just sort of another way of emphasizing that.
Yeah, I like that. He's been around what he describes himself as legends
Yeah.
his whole life, and he's seen what he kind of wants to be. And yeah, I like that, the choosing of that phrase as well, and applying that to the giants. I don't think there's a clear answer on it.
No, I don't think there's a clear answer for any of it.
No, exactly. But that's something that I like about it.
Yeah.
It does, out of everything, like I said, I feel like the giants maybe feels like the most random, but then also it kind of fits in whatever you want it to fit in. And I really like the idea that he asked for a lift, but the fox hisses the giant away, and then there's a question mark over what the fox's motives are as well, if any.
I still have a bit of a question mark. I mean, again, the fox, I wouldn't say the fox seems benevolent, because the fox definitely seems to have some sort of function in terms of guidance and steering him in. Is he steering him in the right direction? I'm not sure.
In the right direction. That's interesting that you chose to phrase it that way. I think it depends who the fox is and what their motives are, because I've heard some interpretations it could be his mother that's possessed the fox, or is the fox.
Okay, so at the final hour she's telling him to turn back because she knows that harm's going to befall him?
Yeah, perhaps.
Because I'm so confused. So again, I'm going to go backwards a little bit. I apologise if this is confusing, but just very quickly while we're talking about his mother again. So apparently the woman that is with the Lord and the Lady, which we'll get to, who's got the bandages over her eyes, apparently that is also Morgan Le Fay.
Right.
Which I'm not even going to start attempting to put those pieces together. But I do want to go back a second. We've missed something, and that's St. Winifred. And I feel like that's kind of important to talk about because she wasn't in the poem. Apparently she was, look, I don't know how much truth there is to this, but apparently she was a real person. She had a partner or somebody who wanted to be her partner. She either spurned him or told him she wanted to become a nun. Jury's kind of out on which one happened, but he became enraged at that point and decapitated her. And he threw the head kind of on the floor, and rumour has it that a healing well sprung up where the head was. And it was only when her uncle discovered the head and kind of rejoined it, that's not the right word, put it back with her body, that she was given life again. So much like what happens in the film, except none of this was in the poem. So I'm curious as to why they chose to include that, because there's another bit that I find slightly odd. So when the scavenger kind of comes back and ties him up and leaves him for dead, the camera pans all around the forest and then circles back around, and Gawain is dead, like desiccated. He's a corpse, like skeleton. And then the camera pans around again and he's Gawain as we know him. And I don't know, I'm a bit curious about that. I know you said like your theory was that was kind of a possibility, or like we were seeing a potential eventuality if he didn't take action.
That's definitely my take on it.
That's your read on it.
Yeah, that's really interesting shot as well, because it was all done in one kind of take, and all of the changing of the seasons was done digitally.
Yeah. Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's really well done. But yeah, I think that scene and the end scene are the two things that really clued me into what I thought this movie was doing, and that I thought was a potential future, as you say. If he didn't take action, he could have died at that point.
Well, there are some people who have the theory that he did die at that point, and then between him dying in the forest and then, I don't know, look, none of this is literal, so take all this with a pinch of salt, and then arriving at St. Winifred's, when he jumps into the lake to retrieve her head, the colours kind of go a bit weird and like bright red, and we're not sure what's happening. And then he obviously comes out, reattaches the head. She's a person. And a lot of people think because that part of her legend is linked to this healing well, that he was brought back to life by jumping in.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know how much stock I put in that theory, but I thought it was worth mentioning.
Yeah, I think it's, like I've said a few times in this episode already, like you can pick anything and just really go into detail, I think, as much as you like on it.
Well, apparently St. Winifred's Well is a religious site still in Wales.
Right, okay.
And that's why Holywell got its name.
Holywell? What's that?
A place in Wales.
Right, okay.
I don't know if it's pronounced Holywell or Holywell, but either way. Interesting.
I thought all of this was just completely made up. I thought it was completely made up, all of the characters and everything. I didn't think it was based on any reality whatsoever.
I'm not well informed enough to know.
But it sounds like, from what you're describing, it's maybe at least loosely, like stories have come from real events and they've changed along the way.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
but in my mind, I just thought it was all fiction, completely.
yeah, okay. I mean, so it sort of ties into the ending, which we'll get to, but that kind of fits with the theory that legends are kind of spun. They're not based in fact necessarily, but on speculation, because obviously it's kind of a game of whispers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which kind of ties into the fact that Gawain wants to be remembered as great, but in the end chooses virtue. So it's worth briefly touching on the fact that he meets Lord and Lady.
Mm.
Do you want to talk about that?
Joel Edgerton and Alicia Vikander, number 2.
Yes.
Do you think maybe his mother is Alicia Vikander, number 2?
I really hope not.
Yeah, me too. I think she might be, though. She might be the fox. She might be her. She might be everyone.
I think it's more likely that she was the woman with the bandages across her face.
There's that too, yeah.
Because I really hope she wouldn't engage in sexual acts with her own son.
So do I. Yeah, I don't like to think about that either.
Yeah, but it would explain why he's kind of reunited with the green sash thingy.
Yeah, sash, that's the word.
There we go.
An exchange of winnings, this chapter's called. And I think that's an interesting title because that's basically what Joel Edgerton says, isn't it? While you're in my house, anything that you get, can you please give to me also?
Mm-hmm.
And what it was that Gawain got was a handy.
Mm-hmm.
So I would assume that Lord also wanted a handy from Gawain. Didn't get that.
He didn't.
Got a little kiss, though.
He did.
Got a little kiss.
So apparently in the poem, they didn't engage in any sexual activity. It was just an exchange of kisses.
Mm.
Because he, in an effort to remain faithful to S04, did kind of push her away a little bit. And that's where, like, in the poem, it kind of makes more sense. I don't know what my read of it is in the film, to be honest.
In terms of him not being able to resist the temptation?
In terms of him playing down what went on with the lady?
To the Lord?
Yeah.
Oh, because he doesn't want to know. He's just embarrassed and ashamed, isn't he?
Yeah, of course.
That's why he legs it. He's like, oh no, I've done a bad thing.
Could have just given him a high five.
Yeah, could have done.
Or again, a lovely hug.
Yeah. That's another test in and of itself, isn't it? Like share with your fellow human the things that you get, pass them on and just be nice on your journey. And ultimately, that's what I think this movie is about. Like whether or not you want to extract a meaning from the ending, I think a lot of it mostly could just be justified as the journey, enjoy the journey of it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like in my notes, there's a line, I think he says, "Is this really all there is?" at one point, which to my mind immediately brings up the fact that it is basically a parable about kind of not wasting your life or looking for meaning in the wrong places. The journey is the story. It's not the ending that's the story.
Yeah. And I like that. But I also don't think that it's necessarily that clear cut. I think that, listen, if you want to waste your life, do it. But don't expect
honour and greatness.
Like that's totally your choice. And you're going to get parents, you need to make something of yourself. You need to be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever it is that external pressure is being put upon you. But maybe that's just not you. Maybe you just don't want that. Maybe that you're not that sort of person. And that's fine too.
Yeah.
But you got to realise that that's what you've got is what you've got and not sort of be resentful of the things that could have been.
Yeah, or get greedy for things if you're not willing to work for them.
Yeah. But also, while we're on the subject of the kind of the journey along the way, I do like the idea that the good deeds that he carries out, like the head, giving the head back to Winifred and exchanging a kiss with Lord, just the fairness, the payment that he gave Scavenger, even though Scavenger wasn't happy with the payment, it was some payment. So it's not completely clear cut that he did a good thing or a bad thing. But when he did do things that you can interpret as maybe the right things to do at that time, he got rewarded for it. And I kind of feel like that's, a little bit like just going through life. If you're just nice to people, I feel like that kind of comes back to you, not literally, you don't, give someone a tenner and they'll give a tenner back to you. But like, I don't know, like the feeling of it, you're doing a nice thing for maybe they'll do a nice thing for someone else. You're just adding positivity to the world rather than
negativity. It's not necessarily reciprocal, but it might be paid forward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I feel like the net positivity in the world has gone up very, very slightly when you do a good deed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do like the idea of him kind of being rewarded along the way. And maybe that's where you find your happiness. It's like you pay it, you do nice things and nice things happen to you and that's it. And you're happy with that.
Yeah. That makes sense because, I don't know, I think it stands to reason that if you do good things and you're a good person, that would bring you a sense of fulfillment.
Yeah. And it just feels nice to be nice.
Yeah.
It just feels, it feels horrible to do the wrong thing.
Mm.
And
Unless you're a sociopath.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know, I take a lot of that kind of meaning from this film as well. But also, if you want to do something really great and interesting, then do
Fill
it.
your
But
boots.
you got to work for it though, and it's going to be hard, and you're going to get your hand cut on your sword sometimes, and you're going to be hungry, and you're going to eat some dodgy mushrooms probably.
And you might get jizz on your sash.
You might get jizz on your sash, but you might meet a friendly fox
Yeah.
along the way that may or may not be your CGI mother.
That may have been animated by Weta Workshop.
Yes, yes. That was the one thing I think in this film.
It didn't look great, did it?
It didn't look great, but it doesn't really matter.
No,
in this
it
instance,
fits in the fantastical nature of the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was sort of a weightlessness to it that didn't look quite right.
Yeah.
But rather that than they use a real animal.
Yeah, 100%. But it does really work here. Like you say, the fantastical nature of it. We're dealing with spells and wizards and sorcery.
Tree dudes.
Treeman, yeah.
Treeman. Mr. Treeman.
Yeah. The Treeman Show.
Oh my God. That's the crossover we need.
Yeah. So it didn't really matter that the fox didn't look great. If anything, I think it maybe added to it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it made me think, oh, is that real, that thing? And the fact that it kind of disappears and pops back up again. And I do think maybe it was his mother trying to guide him along the way.
Can we talk a little bit about colour theory then before we dig into the ending?
Yeah.
So obviously it's called The Green Knight. We've talked at length about the fact that green kind of relates to nature, the earth, all that good shit. He's kind of cloaked in yellow for most of the movie. Gawain. And there's that scene as he's approaching the Green Chapel at the end where basically he's walking through like really thick yellow mist. So I'm guessing that's sort of tied to his cowardice and his apprehension. Like he's literally cloaked in cowardice the entire film. But there's a number of other things as well. Like red generally kind of signifies danger, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Or passion.
Or passion. Because something I found really curious was the fact that Winifred has really shocking bright orange hair. And then in the scene towards the end where he's kind of getting married.
Oh, the flash forward scene.
Very end, the
right.
woman that he marries has the same shocking orange hair. And I wondered if that was relevant.
I expect so. There's a lot of kind of...
There's almost like mirroring,
dualism.
Counterparts, yeah. Because something else that struck me, like, it can't be a coincidence that Barry Keoghan and Joel Edgerton look so similar.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's weird. Can we get a film where they're playing like father and son or long lost brothers or something?
Let's do a Warrior sequel. We're going to call it Warriors. And Barry Keoghan is a third brother.
No.
Yeah. Watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, but then Tom Hardy's the odd one out. Nobody's going to buy Tom Hardy as, but never mind.
Adoption.
Okay.
We can change the original to suit that. That's fine.
Warrior, a new generation.
yeah, that's it. Oh, we can't call it Warriors, can we? Because there's already a movie called Warriors.
Yeah, sure is. But yeah, so there's a lot of, as you say, like counterparts and duplicates and mirroring kind of, and I found that super interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's a comment on his limited life experience. And a lot of it is imagined, so he's filling in the blanks with what knowledge he does have. And that's why some people look similar to others. I don't know.
Perhaps. But, it's not, as we touched on earlier, it's not clear what exactly is and isn't real in this.
No.
So I certainly feel like...
I mean, none of it's real. It's a film, Dan.
It's a poem. But at the end, when he has his flash forward, that's definitely not real, I assume.
Yeah.
Unless he's actually lived that life and done a time travel or something.
No.
No, it's not real. So he, like you said earlier, I think he's used the image of Winifred really there to project in his mind where he's going to go. So maybe it's because the scavenger character says to him early on in the film when Gawain says, "I'm looking for the chapel,"
and he said, "You're already in it."
You're already in it.
Yeah.
So it could be once he's entered that kind of magical realm of quest and journey or whatever it is, that whatever he's confronting is some kind of part of his subconscious, and he uses his own imagery, as you touched on, to fill in those gaps and present the challenges that he needs to overcome. Maybe it's all in his mind. It's all some kind of imagination thing.
I'm going to remind you of this film the next time you tell me you don't want to watch magical realism.
Okay.
I think it's probably time we skip to the end, yeah? So he finally does arrive at the Green Chapel, despite the fact that the fox warns him away. He gets in his little boat and he poodles over.
There's a little paddle.
Yeah, and he waits for the Green Knight.
Very patiently.
Yeah, to wake from his slumber.
On Christmas morn. Sits beneath the tree, awaiting his gift.
That's a twisted way of phrasing it, but yeah, accurate.
Yeah.
And then he comes to, and it sounds about as creaky as I do in the morning.
Treeman,
yeah. And yeah, there's that. There's the flash forward.
Well, yeah, he's sitting there. He's given his axe back to the Green Knight, and the Green Knight's quite surprised. Oh, you came. He's like kind of shocked.
That was earlier.
Oh, was it? Oh, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, smut joke. Sorry, I missed that one. Yeah, you came. He sounded quite surprised by that, and then he says, kneel, and we're gonna just do what you did. Remember what you did to me earlier? And we're thinking like, nothing really.
Just give you a hug.
Yeah, exactly. He sort of kneels, and the Green Knight goes to chop his head off, and he flinches.
Well, he fully falls back at one point, doesn't he, and then runs away.
Yeah, he runs away, and then you see his horse has turned up again.
Mm-hmm. And then we get this whole projected kind of imagined flash forward, like you say.
But you don't know that it's the first time you watch it, you just assume that what you're watching is. I think I did anyway. I assumed that what I was watching was actual reality. He left the Green Knight.
Yeah, it would have been in keeping with the cowardice he's shown so far.
Yeah, exactly. He left the Green Knight with his head still atop his body.
And the fact that you keep trying to work the word atop into everything.
And he had it on his toes and legged it back home.
He macked him off.
He macked him off. He's like, "Fuck you, Green Knight." Kicked him in the nuts. Pulled his trousers down.
Gave him a wedgie.
Went home, and you see through the years that the king and the queen, they die. They knight Gawain. He becomes king, becomes leader of Camelot. You see the civilization fall. You see him have a child with S04, who he takes away from S04 because I guess a king can't be seen to be marrying a sex worker because there's no honour in it. I would imagine the implication is
even if she is Alicia Vikander.
Yeah.
And then, it just plays out that he has kind of this, I don't know whether I would call it kind of a sad life because...
Regretful.
Definitely regretful, yeah. And then we see his son dies in battle and then he's sitting atop his throne.
Yeah.
And he finally pulls the green sash away.
Yep.
And it's like he's sort of pulling it out of a wound.
Mm.
And then finally he throws it to the ground and his head falls off. And I thought that's where the film was going to end the first time. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But then we're taken straight back to the Green Chapel and he's still in front of Groot.
Yep.
That's sticking.
And he says, "I am Groot." And the other one says, "I am Groot." Yeah, so he's kind of seen how his life is going to pan out, or how I assume one possible version of his life could pan out.
Yeah.
And he's thinking in that moment, okay, if I don't do this now, I'm going to live a life of regret. I'm going to be resentful of my inaction, of the relatively easy way of achieving what he wanted to achieve. And he thought, is it worth it? I'm going to lose everything I love and everyone I love. I'm going to be a terrible asshole.
Yeah, it'll be a long life, but will it be a good one? Yeah,
what's the point? And he chooses, I think, in that moment. And this is what I ultimately feel like this is a positive ending and a positive movie. He figures out that he doesn't want that. He figures out that he definitely wants the honour and to be known as a legend, and he doesn't want people to remember him in a negative way. And he's happy with it. And then that's why Green Knight says, "Well done. You've done it."
Well, I mean, before that, he says, there, I'm ready now.
Yeah.
And I fucking love that.
Me too.
Like, I didn't pay much attention to that, like the mirroring of the first lines and the last lines the first time I watched it. And this time it kind of gave me goosebumps. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, okay.
Yeah.
Respect.
It's really, I think it's a great ending. I love it. He's ready to meet his demise.
Do you think he actually dies?
I think so. I think he dies, and I think it's a good thing that he dies.
Okay.
I would go one further and say it's a positive ending.
I'm not convinced he does, and that's based on the ending of the poem.
Right.
Because in the poem, in much the same way, he does kind of go, he submits to his fate. He arrives at the destination and goes, yep, go on, offers up his neck. And the Green Knight kind of nicks him. He just cuts him to teach him a lesson. but ultimately he lives.
I don't like that. That's too fluffy for me.
Same.
It's
You
too-
you know I'm a sucker for a tragic
Yeah.
ending, so I'm going to go with the one where he dies.
It's too much of a Disney ending.
Okay.
It's
The Disneyfication of Arthurian
Yeah.
legend.
They all lived happily ever after. It's like, no, dickhead. Actually, you're gonna fucking die, and it's
Oh, aren't we all?
realistic. Exactly. And don't shy away from it. If anything, embrace it. It'd be nice to people, enjoy your journey, but you're gonna die. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna spend your life worrying about it, or are you gonna prepare for it in the sense that you're gonna accept it?
Engage in a bit of hedonism, but not only hedonism.
Yeah. But ultimately, just if all you want to do is hedonism, great. But
accept your lot in life.
That comes with certain repercussions. Whether
Yeah.
you're going out on the piss every night, you can't do that forever. One day you're gonna have a great time, but you're gonna end up Pete Doherty. So but you know what I mean. It's you can't burn a candle at both ends. Yeah, I like this movie. I like it more. I loved it the first time I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it more and more every time I watch it.
Okay.
And I do think it's one I'm going to be. This could almost be a kind of. I find it quite uplifting. I find it quite an inspiring movie in terms of
like a kick up the arse.
Yeah, a kick up the arse, but also don't worry if you don't get kicked up the arse.
Yeah, I guess so. Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the ride. Yeah, which makes me feel makes me think of Bill Hicks. And just enjoy the ride. It's a roller coaster up and down, etc.
Oh.
You can look that quote up.
Right. I thought you were going to say because there was a goat at the start of the film.
I'm not talking about the goat boy stuff. The one thing Bill Hicks did. No. Thank you. Yeah, I think this movie is a genuine masterpiece.
Okay.
I can't wait to own this now and make it part of the collection. I'll watch it over and over again. Comfort movie.
Comfort movie?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Okay. I am going to... So when we started watching this the second time, I was convinced it was going to go completely over my head again and I was going to get very little out of it. And it pains me to say... I've kind of come around to your way of thinking, and it's all right. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
This is the VVitch, I would say.
Right. Yeah, I can see that.
How you feel about The Witch is probably how I feel about this now.
I kept thinking about Robert Eggers while I was watching this, and I feel like this would make a really good double bill with something like The Witch or The Northman even.
Yeah.
Maybe The Northman would be good.
I think Northman would be good. You've got the Kate Dickie, Ralph Ineson connection there as well. But yeah, definitely the Witch.
And the apprehension engine, don't forget that.
Yeah, the apprehension engine. They're very much I don't know, they feel like they could be part of they're
very tonally similar.
A box set, yeah.
Yeah, like almost like they're part of the same universe or something.
Yeah.
The apprehension engine cinematic universe. There we go. Doesn't trip off the tongue, but
AECU. AECU. Yeah, I like that. Let's start that.
Okay.
Let's do the hashtag.
Yeah, you heard it here first.
Yeah. I think this is great. I'm really curious to go back and watch The Ghost Story now. I
would like to watch it for the first time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, me too. But I like David Lowery. I like the way he approached this movie. I like what he did with it. Such an old legend text that's been interpreted many, many times, and he definitely brought his own flavour to it while mixing a lot of different things together. It's
interesting that you used the word contemporary earlier, because it does feel quite contemporary, but no effort's been made to modernise it at all.
I think it's in the greyness of it. That's my take on it, in the decisions that are made by the characters.
I guess so. And I think also like the universality of the story, it's timeless.
Yeah.
In a way.
And very, very human.
Yeah.
Most human, maximum human.
Maximum overhuman.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're sort of mostly in agreement this week.
I think so. I think this film is a stone cold 5-star for me now.
Oh no, it's not 5 stars for me.
No, what stars is it?
Oh God, I can't remember what I gave it the first time. I'm hovering around a 4.
Yeah.
Because I do have a newfound appreciation for it. And I need to immediately go and watch more Dev Patel stuff.
What if I told you that David Lowery was a vegan and all of the food in the food hall, the court of jesters, what do you call it? The courthouse? Arthur's Court. All of the food in Arthur's gaff was vegan food. The leather was made from fungus for the costumes.
I would say 5 stars, masterpiece.
No. Yeah.
It was it, or are you just saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
Genuinely.
Well, good man. Good for him.
I think the costume designer had known that Lowry was a vegan, so she said, "Oh, okay, well, we've got costumes of leather here. Let's make them from mushrooms naturally."
Mushrooms are versatile.
They
Don't
are.
laugh.
Right? Lion's mane steak we're getting, apparently.
Yeah.
Fucking sign me up.
Well, based on that, I'm going to assume that Ralph Ineson was wearing an actual tree.
He was wearing an actual tree, yeah. He went full method. He
became the tree.
He stood in a pot 30 years ago and they planted some acorns below his feet.
And they just watered him periodically.
Him, yeah. Turned into a tree man.
Awesome. One left.
One left. Yeah, one episode left next week.
What are we doing?
To conclude our folklore season, we're doing the Blair Witch Project.
We are.
OG Blair Witch, which was 1999.
Which I saw at the cinema.
Oh. And we've got a guest joining us.
Keep it quiet.
Keep it quiet?
Yeah.
Don't tell him.
Surprise. But we do. We have a guest from one of our favourite podcasts.
Are we genuinely keeping it a secret? Are we?
Yeah.
All right.